Hello again. I've been sorting through my baking tins and I came across this 24-hole mini muffin tin, which I haven't used for a long time, and thought, well, actually I used to make little lemon curd tarts, so I thought I'd show you how to do it. You're going to need to use a tart tamper. If you live near me, I'll lend it to you. So we're going to make our own dessert pastry, and it's enough to make 48, so I'm going to make one batch of 24 and I'm going to freeze the rest of the pastry for another day. It's worth doing it like that because it saves you messing about another time. So we're going to use the food processor and I'll show you how we do it. Now before we begin, we need to just get this tin ready, and the safest thing to do to ensure that they come out easily is to flour it. So you want just a sprinkle of flour all over the tin, and then we give it a bit of a shake. And I'm going to go to the sink and I'm going to tip out the excess, okay? So that's what that looks like. That's floured and ready to go. Now we'll turn our attention to the pastry. I'm going to use the food processor. You can do it by hand if you like, but it's a lot easier. You're going to need to use 350 grams of plain flour. That goes in. Whoops, a bit flew out. You need 250 grams of unsalted butter that's nice and cold and cut into little cubes. That goes in. It's a very hot day here, so actually it's got a bit soft. To that we add 50 grams of caster sugar, and I'm going to use that little bowl again in a minute, and then we add the zest of a lemon. I've got one of these lemon zesters. You can do it on a grater. You just want to get the very outside lovely sharp bit of the lemon skin where all the flavour is. That goes in as well. And then we put the lid on and we give it a whiz. It's noisy. Now you can tell when it's ready because it stops thumping about with all the big bits of butter, and you get this very breadcrumby looking mixture, as you would do if you were rubbing it in with your fingers. So to this we now need to add some egg. If you've got very big eggs, you won't need all of 2. If you've got medium to small, you may well need both eggs. It's one of those things that you've got to just put in about half of it, and if it doesn't make a dough, put in some more. So give those a whisk. And I'm going to add half, roughly, and put the lid on and let it do its thing again. Now you can see that's really clumping together quite nicely. I'm not going to put any more egg in there. I'll save that for something else. I'll add it to an omelette or something. So we've got to get this out, and you've got to be very careful with the blade. And I'm going to tip it onto my board. But the first thing to do is get that blade out. If it's a bit messy, clean it off with something. The thing about pastry is that the less you work it, the better it is. It's shorter and crumblier because the gluten strands don't join together. They haven't been overworked so that they become long. So they're short strands of gluten, and that's what makes the pastry short, or described as being short. And by that we mean sort of crumbly. Now, you will need to do a little bit of just gathering that together. A little bit, not too much, until it starts to stick. Get all the bits, stick them back on. And because we're going to cut it in half, if we make it into a sort of brick shape, it's easier to gauge where half is. So I'm going to do that. And that piece is going to go in the freezer. Right. Now this piece, we're going to cut it into 24 pieces. So yet again, try and get a nice, regular sort of squarish type shape. And in half. So I've got to get 12 out of this. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to go like that and like that. And then if I go there and there and there, 3, 6, 9, 12, that's right. Same here. I'm going to turn that because it's a bit sticky. Now, as you can see, we've got some that are tiny and some that are enormous. And as you go along, you can take a bit off one and add it to the other. And what we do is roll it into a ball in your hands and drop it in the tin. Okay? So we're going to do this with all 24 of them. This is going to get a bit boring. You might want some nice music while this happens. Take a bit off that one. That's another tiny one. Right, there we are. There's the last one. So I'll get that out of the way. Now we're going to use this little wooden gadget, and just to make sure it doesn't stick, I'm going to put some flour in that little bowl. It's nearly the end of the bag. Right, so we dip the tamper in the flour and then we come along and we just press down, and as you press, the pastry extrudes up the sides of the tin. Now it is a warm day and that is a bit sticky, so a bit more flour. Down we go. And if you can get them to just come above the edge of the tin, that will give you something to get hold of when you take them out of the tin when they're cooked. So you just simply keep going until they've all been tamped. I don't know if that's a word, but that's what we're doing. Okay. Last row. Just do it gently, just in case it's going to stick. So now we need lemon curd next. And for this, you really don't want to use the best homemade lemon curd because it will boil and it will boil over and it will actually make them stick really badly. So you need a very ordinary supermarket lemon curd. And for this number of little cups, you'll need about half a jar. So in each one, it's a bit more than that, it's about half a teaspoon. Okay, can you see that? Half a teaspoon in each one. And I'm going to keep going. A bit more in that one. Last row. A bit more in that one perhaps. And there we are. So they've all got the lemon curd in. Now they're going to go into the oven at gas mark 5, which is 190 Celsius, 170 if you've got a fan oven. It's 375 if you're working in Fahrenheit, and they'll take between 12 to 15 minutes. Keep an eye on them. I hope that your lemon curd doesn't bubble over. Remember, use one that's not the best, you know, the sort of very ordinary range, and then it shouldn't boil over. If they're a bit close to the edge, like I've put that one in there, I'm going to just move that down a bit to encourage it to stay in there. But that's all there is to it. So 12 to 15 minutes at gas mark 5 and all those other numbers I just told you. Okay? See you. Now, these little lemon curd tarts took 12 minutes to cook, and I've left them to cool in the tray because it gives them a chance just to kind of set and be easier to take out of the tin. And as you can see, I like to put a piece of fruit on the top of each one, and it could be a raspberry, it could be a blueberry. I've done it with grapes as well. Now, so to get them out, you need to go for the side that's kind of raised above the tin and just ease it gently. Lift it out, put it onto your plate, and then put your piece of fruit on. So just gently lift them out, because they can, you know, if the lemon curd is stuck to the tin, it might be a bit of a challenge. So if you've got somewhere the lemon curd has spilled out, use a sharp knife and just break through that seal rather than allow the lemon curd to make it just completely stick to the tin and break. So just ease them out. And then put them onto your plate and use whichever sort of fruit you like. And you can see that by putting a raspberry on there, if the lemon curd hasn't spread itself and made it look beautiful, you've got maybe a gap at the edge, the fruit will hide that. And you could put 2 or 3 blueberries, make sure you wash them first obviously, and there they are. So, hope you like these, enjoy.